Republicans for Harris is being described as a campaign within a campaign to mobilize voters who, quote, reject the chaos, division, and violence of Donald Trump and his Project 2025 agenda. Olivia Troy is among them. She worked in the Trump administration as Homeland Security advisor to Vice President Mike Pence, and she's now part of this new voter outreach group, Republicans for Harris. Good to see you, Olivia. How did you come to this decision to not only reject Trump in this case, which you've been outspoken against him, but to actually take that next step and endorse Vice President Kamala Harris?
Yeah, look, I have been looking at what's at stake for our country come this November, and obviously I am anti-Trump, but I had the fortunate pleasure of getting to know Kamala Harris a little bit recently when I traveled with her to Michigan for an event with conservative women and independent women and independent voters in general on women's reproductive rights. And what I found about her was just striking how much she just very eloquently laid out the choice here that we have. And she did it in a manner that was compassionate and also respectful of how conservative women feel on this issue. And after leaving that event, I said, look, we've got to do everything we can to stand together. And I will do everything I can in my part to help her earn the support of conservatives and those in the middle. And I think that there are a lot of conservatives like myself who understand the grave importance of protecting our freedoms in this moment, who are going to actually band together and take a stand against what this is in terms of what another Trump administration would look like.
But what do you say to Republican voters who may not necessarily want to vote for Trump, but are hesitant to support a Democrat?
Look, I used to be one of those people. I used to be that person that would go in and no matter what was on the ticket, I always, voted straight R across the board. The identity politics is very real. I understand that. I know that. But look, Republicans, the Republican Party that I think that we've all identified with for many years is very different right now. I want to go back to the Republican Party that stood for individual liberties, that stood for individual freedoms, a party that stood for strong national defense, strong foreign policy. I don't want to be part of a Republican Party where there is someone like Trump who is befriending people like Putin, people like Viktor Orban, people like authoritarians around the world and hurting our alliances globally. So I think it's important for us to take a step back and say, hey, the only way actually to come and make a difference in the GOP right now in this moment is to break apart from it and break apart from this horrible movement that has taken it over and make a difference for everyone and chart a different path forward. And right now, that path is supporting the Democratic nominee, which is Kamala Harris.
During the 2020 campaign, Harris took positions seen as more liberal than President Biden, and she's pulled back on some of those stances. For example, she's now more open to fracking. She's distanced herself from the Green New Deal. But is that enough to shake off the quote unquote dangerous San Francisco liberal label that Trump's tried to give her?
I think those attacks will continue, but I think it's telling that that's all they've got. When you're mocking someone, and especially, they're so disparaging towards women, especially Donald Trump seems to have a knack for that, and so does his inner circle. When your go-to is mocking her laughter or calling her that San Francisco liberal, and despite her enormous qualifications for the office that she currently holds, I think that tells you everything, that they're devoid of actual policy. I think she is evolving. I've seen her speak more moderately, and I'm not concerned about where this is going with her. I see someone who'll be a true leader on the world stage, which is what we need. I see someone who will be more unifying, which is also what we need. We need to get away from this ugly divisiveness across the country. And I think when people see her compared to Trump, what does Trump have? He's sitting here yelling about Governor Kemp right now, someone who is in his own party. And by the way, the things that he's saying about Governor Kemp and the way he's speaking about him, those things lead to dangerous threats against Governor Kemp and his family. And so I want to get away from that. And that's the party that Trump stands for. Kamala Harris stands for a leadership, a different kind of leadership for our country. And I think that is important because we need to start paving a different path. We cannot continue to go down this road.
There are some really high-ranking Republicans who don't support Trump. Who aren't on this list of Republicans for Harris, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, for one. Also, your old boss, Mike Pence, former President Bush, Paul Ryan. Do you anticipate any of them signing on?
I think we've still got some time till November. I think the sooner the better. I hope that those voices will join this chorus and support her. I think they could make a big difference. And in terms of Mike Pence, I do think that in some ways, I think what he's done speaks volumes by the fact that he has not endorsed Donald Trump and said he won't. I think it would be incredibly powerful if people like him, Paul Ryan, who I have tremendous respect for in the past, would come forward, and Liz Cheney, and say, we are going to support Kamala Harris because it's the right thing to do for our country, our democracy. And at this moment, let's put our policy differences aside and let's go back to actually serious governing once we get past this, because we're not going to have that under Donald Trump. We can go back to debating about different policies, whether it's foreign policy or how we feel. But right now, we've got to save the country and take it in a better path.